And good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another live Xanadu Gallery Art Business Academy online critique group session. Today is January 6th. It's a Wednesday, 2021. It is good to be back with you after the holidays and a little break. And it is good to be back with you. I've missed our Wednesday sessions to get a chance to share each other's art, talk a little bit about the art itself, get to know other artists, and as today from around the world, and talk a little bit about the business of art. I'm pleased to welcome today what I believe is our first artist joining us from Europe for one of these sessions. So I'd like to welcome Nina, who's joining us from Vienna, Austria. Welcome, Nina.
Thank you very much. Good morning or hi to everyone, and Happy New Year. I'm very excited to be with you here today.
And let's begin, Nina, by talking a little bit about your background and how you came to art. As we can sense from your accent, you're maybe not quite Viennese. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, thanks. Thank you. Actually, I was born in Bosnia and grew up in Serbia. And 5 years ago, we moved to Vienna because I got a job here. So I'm here with my family. And actually, regarding my art, it is something absolutely new. I am like less than 1 year in art world, in painting, I would say, because I would say like that art was being part of my life. I used to act in theater in my college and high school, so in my
Oh, and there goes, I think, our internet connection. Shoot. Nina, do we have you? Let's see if we get Nina back in. Uh, uh, Supposedly the internet is great, right? Until it's not. But we get a little bit of background. And of course, I'll have a couple of other questions for Nina about her background. We're going to just give her a moment to hopefully get back into the session. And if not, we're going to jump in and just start looking at and talking about her work and jump at it that way. There we go. Oh, there, I think I've got Nina back. Let's see, you're muted.
yes.
There we go. Got you now.
So it was very good at the beginning, but the connection was gone. So I'm not sure until when did you hear me?
Yeah, just that you had some background in acting, and then
Yes.
just shortly have for about the past year been in the art world. And so, talk to us a little bit about what drew you to the visual arts, and kind of how where your inspiration is coming from, and where you're drawing your technique from.
Yes. So actually, when everything with this lockdown started, so then it started also my, I would say, personal transformation, because I think that in the way that we couldn't go inside of us. And somehow I was exploring my inner world and my inner self. And that is how inspiration came. I usually used to draw with my daughter because she is very creative and she is like very artistic child. And through these all like activities with her together and drawing, it just came as inspiration to me. And it came in the sense that I really had this passion to really show my inner world or my emotions, to transfer that on canvas and somehow to communicate with audience and with people in that way. Because when I was acting, the way of my communication was like expressing myself on the stage or in theater, and now I'm communicating with audience through different medium. But it is my inner world.
Yeah, and I think that we'll have a lot to say, and I suspect that many of us will comment that understanding that you come from a background in drama, I think we can see some of that same expressiveness coming through in the work itself. So let's take a look at the work and talk to us a little bit, Nina, about how you came to create, or what pulled you in the direction of creating abstract work, and of developing the style that you're creating in.
Yes. So actually, when I now like think about my school age and also all these art classes that we have in high school, I used to paint abstract art also when I was in like this teenager age. But then that was not much appreciated because I couldn't draw very precisely. And so then I said, okay, this is something that I just left it behind me. And I think that I always had this in myself. And it came out that the way that I'm expressing this, what I feel through the colors and through this kind of composition, this is something which is my inspiration. So this is what I want to show to the world. And therefore, so you can see also here from from my paintings that there is different style, because I started, for example, with some like geometrical paintings, and then I went to a knife painting, which is this painting here, and that was really with these very small strokes. And after that, it came because I don't know, it was like coming by inspiration that I came to this squeegee painting with this big palettes, or with this big spatula and rulers. So this is how I paint now. So and then that gives me this how to say, freedom to express more movement and more dynamic to bring to my paintings.
Excellent. Okay, so let me invite, if I can, some of those of you who are here in the session with us, either in the panel or if you're just in the attendee session, you can raise your hand to let me know that you have a comment. But I would love to get your response and reaction to the work, especially just in terms of how the work strikes you. What impressions you have of the work, and what you think of the consistency of the work that we're seeing here. So can I get some of you to jump in and comment? And of course, as usual, if I don't get volunteers, I will volunteer you. So I'd love to get some feedback from those of you here in the panel in terms of what you're seeing in the work. All right, Kate, let me go to you first, and then I'll go to Mona.
Okay, can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear, Kate.
Okay. You mentioned that you were doing a different style, but I don't see a different style. There's such a consistency in how you handle the paint. I look at all these as like, oh no, it's you. So even if you were experimenting a little bit, it's still coming from you. So it's very consistent. So no different style.
Yeah, Kate, and I think that's interesting. And I agree. When I looked across this work, frankly, and having looked through the submission that you put in, Nina, I was surprised to hear this morning that you've been creating for just a year, because with that short a time frame, I would have expected to see maybe a much more, much wider diversity of styles and experimentation. But already, it sounds like almost by instinct you've kind of have gone into a very consistent approach to the work. Mona, I think you had a comment. Let's see if I can get you in. Gotcha. Good morning, Mona.
Hi, Jason. This is the first time I join. I'm from Montreal in Canada.
Welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you. And I'm an artist. What I like about the paintings I see in front of me, it's a body of work that she has started doing without realizing maybe she's doing a body of work. And I love the color that she uses, the colors that she uses, as well as the forms and shapes. The composition at the very beginning, if we can go to the very beginning one. Yes.
Oops.
Yeah. What I like about it, feels like as if there is a superposition of colors, because she most likely has started drawing, how do you say that in English? Gratter, to use a pen or something, or a cutter, and go through the paint. So it gives it this texture. And I like the fact that not all the textures are the same. They're different in shape and motif and color. Very, very, very nice. For somebody who's painting only a year ago, my hat's off for you, because I'm an abstract painter as well. So
Thank you so much. So if I may add, Jason,
Sure.
for this painting, like just to explain how did I do it. Actually, this painting has very interesting story. It is part of collection which I made. It is like part of a triptych for exhibition in Milan, because I had some art shows and exhibitions already in Spain and Italy. And this was the exhibition called Motherhood. And I made 3 paintings. One of them is called New Experience, which is like this experience of becoming a mother. Then the second one is Don't Touch My Child. It is one painting with very strong message how mothers are feeling when someone is hurting their children. And this is like the third one. This is called The Power of a Woman. And it, I would say, sublimes all these feelings like a woman has, and also as a mother. And this is here what I really what I try to do is to express all these, let's say, elements of a woman and her emotions. And what I do usually is that I always, or I would say usually, I paint the background. So I have this like with a brush. And then sometimes it's one color. In this case, it was red color, because I had these 3 paintings, painted them all in different shades of red, because I think that all of these elements of woman has different shades inside of self. So this was one very bright red. And then I start with these with rulers to make all these patterns. And I'm always trying with all these layers which I'm using to express the complexity of human feelings or human minds. And this is the message. And actually, I have to add, for this painting, I posted that on Instagram. After 1 hour, this painting was sold. So someone
Wow.
saw the painting, and so that was for me like I would say a sign that I really did something good, because it was recognized
beautiful.
in 1 hour.
Yeah, that's awesome, and congratulations on
Thank you.
that sale. And it you know, you mentioned that you've already had the opportunity to show your work in some exhibitions, which again, given the circumstances of this last year, certainly not easy to find opportunities to show the work and get exposure for it. What have the responses been to the work from people who have seen it and experienced it, and what kind of feedback have you received?
It was really very positive feedback, and for me it was very surprising, because when I started to paint, I started to post it everything on Instagram, and then the galleries were coming to me and contacting me, uh, telling me that they like my work, they find it very interesting. And also, like I would say, people who artists or my friends or people who are just following me, they were their feedback was very interesting, because uh, what I express in my paintings is usually what they really feel. So, for example, if I'm talking about this, let's say this painting which is called Wonderful Soul, with this blue and red and white, then people are having this kind of feeling. So I'm managing to really transmit these emotions to them. And only, for example, what I, let's say, didn't manage in this year is to have, like, I would say, some good sales. So because I think this is the one element which is still, I think it needs time. And this is also what I would like to get your feedback today about the strategies or the prices and this kind of.
Yes. Yeah. So let's do jump in and talk a little bit about that, and shift gears a little bit away from the work itself and talk. I want to start with the presentation of the work, and then jump in and talk about pricing. And so, Nina, tell us, is what we're seeing here, where we get to kind of see the presentation, would this be fairly typical of how you're presenting the work? Are you presenting most of them unframed, box stretched canvases, kind of the gallery wrap approach?
Yes, because it is abstract art, and usually it is very difficult to frame, because then it might be something that people will not like. So what I do usually is that I am also coloring the edges of the painting. In this case, it was a black canvas. I bought black canvas, so because sometimes it's interesting to work on black canvas as well. And but what I do is that I'm really trying to make everything so neat and nice with coloring the edges. And also I have these labels for my at the back. You can see that for all this information about and details, inventory, and all these details about the artwork. But I know that I don't have the buyer. This is something maybe that I should improve.
In fact, I got a comment on that from Jean from Canada, who said
Yeah.
hanging wire with D-rings on the back, that you would definitely want to have that on all of your work to make sure that it's easy for display,
Yes.
and both for galleries and at shows, and for the client who's buying the
Yeah.
piece, that you'd want to make sure it's wired.
Because, for example, when I was sending my paintings to Spain in summer, they were exhibited in this Marbella art show, and the gallery, they said like the hooks would work, or so this is what we made as agreement. But I think that this wire is something that I need to implement.
Yeah, and I will say, and I'm not sure that we've really talked much about this in past sessions, because it's not the sexy part of art, right? Thinking about the logistics of handling the artwork and displaying and moving it around a gallery or a show. I just had the opportunity yesterday to hang some new artwork in our gallery in Scottsdale, and the artist, without saying too much or revealing any names, but the artist has presented to me an alternate method of hanging that is not wires. It's cleats and mounting a cleat to the wall, etc. I can just tell you that the reason most artists use a wire is because over time, uh, survival of the fittest hanging method has shown us that wires give us the most flexibility and are the easiest. The problem with any alternate to that is that you end up spending more time, and this is especially true in a gallery where we're constantly moving the artwork around. You're just going to end up spending exponentially more time trying to get it leveled and placed the way you want it to, where a wire very quickly allows me to put a piece of artwork on the wall, and if it's not level, very easily adjust it. Where even hooks, like you mentioned, where I have to do 2 mounting points, then I have to worry about getting it level. And so my default would be, if there is any possible way that you, as a painter, if you're a painter, can use a wire and make it simple, that I would go ahead and do that, and just come up with a consistent method for installing the D-rings on the back of the artwork and using a wire, and do it across all of your work. I will tell you also that I have several artists who are very detail oriented, who make sure that the distance between the top of the canvas and the top of the wire are always precisely the same, at about 2¼ inch is what I have found to be fairly ideal. And that by being consistent, again, when you're dealing with a lot of the artwork, it makes it easier to deal with the hanging and installation. So, again, there are always going to be exceptions to how certain pieces need to be mounted and hung, and each of you are working in different media. Works behind glass that's framed are going to be a little bit different procedure, and you can deal with all of that. But especially as you're working toward gallery representation and increasing the volume of your sales, we really want to work towards having a very consistent, cohesive process for producing the work, the physical artwork, where the canvases are all consistent, the mounting is all consistent. If you're framing, the framing is fairly consistent and easy to do, so that you can have a good volume of production. Now, it looks like, Nina, you've already are working towards that consistency. I would say that you've got a lot of great instinct going for you this early in your career, that you're making a lot of good decisions, and you know, that sometimes can take years to kind of gain wisdom, and not to say that you won't have opportunities to learn from experiences in showing and selling the work, but I would say you're off to a good start. I would love to get feedback from anyone else in terms of the presentation of the artwork, or any advice you might give to Nina in terms of thinking about physical artwork that's being created. Anyone want to hop in with any comments there before we jump into pricing? Let me go to Gay, and then I'll go back to Mona.
Okay, this is just mine. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear, Gay.
This is just minor, and it's certainly not a criticism. But the interesting thing about this composition, and I know you said you started it on black canvas, which is fascinating, and does a very different thing to your art than white canvas does, and good times. The only thing I will say that I notice about the edges of canvases, which is what I've been paying attention to myself, because mine are filthy, I have to cover them with something, is that when you see this on side, the black makes a difference to the painting.
Yes.
How it's perceived, and so does the white. And I know you see this because you seem to have a really instinctive value of color in everything you do, but it actually makes the painting do something. So as you go forward, I guess what I'd be interested to know later on is if you just simply decided to do individual coloring for each of the sides. Like I have some which mirror the main color of the painting, others which are white. Because I don't usually frame anything. It's way too expensive, the size I'm working. So I'm just interested about that because of the visual aspect of this. And then how deep are these? How deep? Are they about what? An inch and a half or?
Yes, these are 2 centimeters. So I'm not good in inches, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, it looks like it's about 1.5 to 2 inches.
2 inches, that's okay then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Different. So sometimes I have these paintings which are more deeper, like these 4 centimeters. But what I noticed is, for example, it is very difficult if people want to frame them, then they are too wide for too deep for framing. And actually, when I usually work on these 2 centimeters canvases, and I paint the edges usually by my background color. So this is what I do.
Yeah. So, okay. So that is interesting. And I'm probably not great at doing quick conversions from centimeters to inches either, but I suspect that in most cases, 2 centimeters, that probably is not quite as deep as I would like it to be.
No, it's about 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah, so I might suggest if you're showing the work unframed, that having that deeper canvas really helps bolster the presentation, gives it more of a presence, more of a visual weight. And almost what my experience has been is that as you have those deeper canvases, 3-4 centimeters, then that in most cases your clients are not even going to worry about a frame because it'll be clear and obvious that the work doesn't need one, and that it can carry itself. Whereas with a shallower canvas with less depth there, it does almost feel like, oh, it's not quite finished. Now I need to frame it. And I would rather take that away. And if a client is insistent, well, I like the piece, but I need to have it framed, even on a deeper canvas, they can work with a framer and find a molding that will accommodate that deeper canvas. So that would be one recommendation right out the bat, is to just go to that more consistent. I'm going to throw it out in inches again, because again, not great at centimeters, but being an American and all, where we insist on using stupid measurements instead of smart ones.
No.
An 1.5 to 2 inches would be a minimum for unframed work in my experience. Sure, Gay.
I just want to say this. Your work is very sculptural. Whether or not this looks like very thick paint, I just don't know. It doesn't matter. But the visual effect is of thick paint, substantial paint.
Yeah.
And I think that would be enhanced by the thicker, the deeper stretch to begin with, because it's almost sculptural in its completion.
Agreed. Yeah, and I would echo that comment, and that's going to bring us to another point about your website and images of the artwork. But we're going to hold on to that for just a second. Mona, I think you might have had a comment as well, or maybe we've covered it. Go ahead.
I agree with both of you. I agree with Gay that artist canvas is the best canvas type, which is a 1.5 to 2 inches, which I use all the time. My question, and she's right about the fact that there is a lot of beautiful colors in there, and then the black stops it. Like your eye goes and then sees the black. I usually do not use black. I use one of the colors, the main color of the painting, to paint it on the side. But my question was, in order to do an exhibition or anything in a gallery, do you suggest that we do the same size of canvas so that it has a sort of a unity to it? Or do you suggest a few big ones and a few small ones?
Good question. And certainly I would start with the same depth on all of the canvases, regardless of how large they are. That will help add a cohesion across all the work. For my gallery, typically I do like to have a range of sizes, and both in terms of being able to just create some visual interest. I find that having multiple sizes creates kind of an interplay between the viewer and the work. And offers some visual variety that is appealing. It also then allows you to have a variety of different price points of the work, which is a positive. And it allows you to reach out to a wider audience, some of whom may only be interested in larger works, and some of whom may be interested in having some smaller pieces. And so, every artist is going to have a different range that makes sense to them. For some of you, a small piece is going to be a 40 by 50 canvas. And for some of you, that's 3 times as large as your largest piece. So in other words, I would just say that whatever you're doing, if you can kind of increase the breadth of sizes that you're offering, that can be a huge positive. And if you were to take a walk through my gallery right now, you'll see that interplay between larger and smaller works is a key to our approach to displaying the work. Now let's talk about pricing. Because I think we're going to have a lot of feedback about the pricing of your work. So before we jump into the feedback, Nina, tell us a little bit about how you came to start putting a value on your work, how you decided on the price that you were going to offer the work at.
It is interesting story. So when I started, my first collaboration was with a gallery from Madrid, Van Gogh Art Gallery, and it is.
And how did you come in contact with this gallery? How did that relationship begin?
They contact me via Instagram. So they contacted me, and then they offered this to participate in the exhibition in Marbella Art Show. And then when I sent them my prices, which were like based on this mathematical formula, they actually increased the prices. So they came with higher prices than I estimated. And actually, these prices now are based on prices which I got from the Viennese gallery. It's called Steiner Gallery, and we are planning to have solo exhibition, this vernissage, in August 2021, so this year. So this is something which is already planned. And when I spoke with them, then we came to this level of prices.
And are the prices that we're seeing here, are these in euros, or did you convert them, or what are the monetary measurements here?
They are in euros. I was putting prices in euros, right?
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And so and I'm not sure what the exchange rate is right now, but we're not let's see, too far. In fact, I'm just going to, for fun, run the number really quick.
Okay.
Well, let's hold on. Let's take this piece and euros to US dollars. So this piece there, it's running at $1.23 for a euro. So at 1,500, this would be about $1,800 for a 39 by 55 inch canvas. Let me get your response, those of you here in the panel, to what you're seeing in terms of prices. How do these prices strike you as you look at the work? Let me go to Sheila. And Sheila should be asking you to unmute there. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning. When I looked at these, I used American dollars, so the numbers aren't going to be quite accurate, but you'll get the idea. When I looked at a per inch price using dollars, the pieces that we're seeing today ran roughly from 69 cents an inch to $1.44. So, and the largest piece was the least expensive, which was a little surprising to me because your inputs, it costs you more. If you have to ship it, it's going to cost you more. So I was just curious as to how you came about the pricing and what made one basically double per inch than others when seemingly it seems similar to me. And I know in my own work, I try to stick to a per inch cost that's consistent, plus look at what my cost to create it would be and what perhaps shipping it would be and that kind of thing. So that was my question. How did you come by?
Yeah, Nina. So Nina, it sounds like you started with a formula, and then as you talked to the galleries, you kind of moved away from that formula a little bit. So what's your response to Sheila?
I was also calculating the time that I was spending and working on the paintings. And I think that also this suggestion which I get from the gallery, maybe this misleaded me in some way to my pricing. So I think that is the main point. So, and that was also one of my questions, like really how to establish this consistency in the prices. Because, yes.
And so I would agree with this concept, and anyone who knows me and has spent time on my blog or is working with me in the Art Business Academy, you know that I am a big advocate of coming up with a standardized pricing formula for your work and hewing to that formula as closely as you can across your work. I typically recommend that you avoid trying to calculate time spent on a piece. Because in my experience, some of your best work can come very quickly, and some of the more tortured work can take a lot of time. And so, yeah, I'm hesitant to recommend paying too much attention to the time. Really, when a potential client, when a potential buyer is experiencing your artwork, they're not going to have a sense of all of those other things, how much time went into the work, whether it's your favorite piece or not, any of those kind of subjective inputs. And really, they're just experiencing what the visual impact of the work, what the qualitative aspects of the work are. And I don't want to confuse them with a range of price points that just are going to introduce questions. And so by having a consistent formula for pricing, you eliminate that. If I have two paintings, which I think we have several here that are kind of similar in size. We've got a range. So we've got a 34, 39 at 1,300. Both of these are at 1,300. That's what I would want to see. That the same size pieces would be at the same prices. Now, to Sheila's point, Sheila mentioned, why would the larger piece be at a lower per square inch price? This is actually fairly common across the artists that I work with, that they do have a bit of a sliding scale based on size, and that it does go in that direction, that smaller works tend to be at a higher per square inch price, and that per square inch price can go down as the works get larger. And the way I kind of think of this is that just getting to the easel and getting to work it is a significant part of the value of the work, your creative process, your talent, the skill that you've cultivated. And to a certain extent, a smaller piece is going to be every bit as challenging to create as a larger work. And we wouldn't want to, uh, necessarily deeply handicap the value of those smaller pieces by just having a consistent per square inch price. Really what ends up happening is that there's just kind of this underlying baseline of value in your work, and that the larger pieces can accommodate a little bit of a lower per square inch price, and that tends to help the work in the marketplace. My biggest recommendation here is that as you are, and especially an artist like Nina, who is early in the stages of marketing and promoting her or his artwork, that you spend some good time researching other artists in the marketplace and see how they are valuing their artwork. That, if you go into this blind and in a kind of vacuum saying, I'm just going to guess what my artwork is worth, that can really lead to some confusion and make it challenging for you to come up with a good value. To me, and certainly if you were to approach my gallery, and it sounds like the galleries that you've approached have already said this, to me, even at these increased values, you have got a lot of room to move the prices up. Again, the quality of the work that we're seeing here, and the effect that it achieves, even at $1,800 US dollars, this is still, we could say it's a great value, and maybe you're going to attract some buyers that way. But I would suspect that as these galleries get your sales going, and as we start to create some demand for the work, that it is going to very quickly become a necessity for you to increase the value of the work, to increase the profitability of the sales for you and for the galleries, but also to increase the perceived value that your clients are going to have as they look at the work. Remember, we're sending a very strong message by the price tag that we put on the work. Now, having said all of that, we also need to be aware of different marketplaces. And I have to admit, I've not spent a lot of time researching art galleries and values of artwork in Vienna or in Spain or Italy. And so you may be working in a different market and you may not be that far off, but it is worth doing the research, looking at some other abstract artists in those markets and seeing how they are valuing their work. And it's certainly an ongoing process. We're quickly running out of time, and I do want to get to some of the comments that were submitted. Kate, I won't go through all the details of the per square inch because I saw a lot of you doing this kind of reverse engineering Nina's pricing. And I think the feedback was that universally, Nina, you've got room to raise your prices. And we would recommend that you work with your galleries, but very quickly, it would become important to start increasing the value of the work.
If I may add,
yeah, absolutely.
Because for me, this pricing was, I would say, the most, let's say, difficult part. Because first, I'm beginner. I'm still not established artist. Secondly, also for me, it is, if I don't have these sales and sales record, then how can I increase my prices? So this is, for me, something a little bit contradictory, and that's why I was hesitating.
And this is the classic chicken and egg problem of pricing. Do I raise my prices when my sales kick into gear? And I would argue that in a lot of cases, it's the other way around, that as you increase your prices, your sales will increase. Remember, a client experiencing your work won't necessarily know. Hopefully they won't know. If the gallery is doing a good job, I'm not going to say to someone who comes into the gallery, this artist has only been painting for 9 months, has no experience in the art world, is a newbie. And, we're not going to be saying those kind of things. We're going to be talking about, look at the use of color and the textures. And we can justify the higher price points. I think you're on the right track right now, Nina, in terms of getting into the market, getting your feet wet, experimenting with creating more work, getting feedback from your galleries and a response from clients, and then you can work towards increasing the value of that work in conjunction with your galleries. But boy, especially as you start thinking about, if I'm showing in galleries and galleries are taking commission on the sales of artwork, and those galleries are wanting to generate profit for the space that the artwork is taking up, pretty quickly, the market is going to necessitate an increase in the value of your work. And again, speaking in dollar terms, kind of the floor where I'm seeing, or maybe I should say the range of price points that I see a lot of activity in, especially for early to mid-career artists, is about $1.75 to $3 per square inch. You know, if you're outside that range, and this would go for any of us here, that would be something that we should think about targeting as we move forward. Let me get to just a couple of comments really quick. We're out of time already, but Jeff Green, whose work we featured here during the last several months, says, as a photographer, I can't provide any technical advice about the work, but I strongly suggest having bigger images of the artwork on your website and give the viewer the ability to zoom in. The 2 large images on your homepage are great. They really allow me to appreciate and feel the emotions you're conveying. You might also want to consider showing images of your artwork in situ in various settings. There are several apps that give you the ability, such as Art Rooms or Shoot and Sell. And I just want to echo what Jeff is saying here about the importance. You've already mentioned that you've had a sale on social media. Your website can be a very good tool. And kind of echoing back to the comment about the sculptural nature of your work, I would suggest that larger images and also having some close-up, off-axis images of the artwork that show me the texture of the work would be very important for you. On your website, social media posts, and in your portfolio of work, you want to give the viewer the sense of the surface textures and kind of the quality of the paint that's there and the intensity of the color. And so I would highly recommend that you include some of those photos. You wouldn't have to do it for every single piece that you're creating, but you want to give me as a gallery owner and my clients a real sense of what's going on the surfaces. That's going to be an important part of experiencing the work in person, and you would want to try and replicate that as much as you can virtually as you're sharing images on social media. Jay from British Columbia says, think about informal balance and uneven rhythm in how paint is applied. Adapt paint strokes and patterning to include long and short strokes proportions. If painting in a grid pattern, maybe the internal structure of each cell needs more variety in structure, color, and brush stroke while still having connectivity for the viewer. Neaten edges of paint or continue painting around onto the edges. So some kind of technical thoughts on the process there. And then I'll fit in one final step, Tanya, and I got a lot of echo of this comment. I feel that your work would energize a modern home or even set off a show home nicely. The fact that it can be interpreted because it is abstract is a strong suit. And I would agree with that. And I think I would just, kind of in closing, Nina, I would just offer words of encouragement. You're very early in your visual art career. You've had some successes already, which is awesome. I suspect that as every artist, you'll also run into some bumps along the way and some roadblocks. Persist and keep doing and being excited. I mean, your enthusiasm, I think we can all see your enthusiasm here. That's going to take you a long way. But this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so, to maintain that enthusiasm can be a challenge. We just encourage you to do it. And let's close that way. Anyone want to hop in? If those of you who are here in the session, if you could go back to yourself a year into your art career, what would you tell yourself? And what would you tell Nina, who is very early in her career? What words of encouragement might you offer, or words of advice might you give? Gay, let me go to you, and then I'll go to Mona.
Just push it as far and as hard as you can. Never try and shut out any of those voices that would have you stop in your tracks and tell you it's not good enough. And just, I believe in just going for broke. And somewhere in there, you'll always find what's the right thing for you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Love it. Mona.
I think it's magnificent that you do what you do after a year. I have to honestly take off my hat for you. What I'm saying is that don't lose that sense of spontaneity, and always not to worry about, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? It's only a canvas. If it doesn't work, you throw it or you paint over it. So by letting yourself go, that's when I started really painting well, is by not being a critic of what I'm doing. Thank you
Great.
very much. It was so interesting.
Yes, yeah, and thank you for everyone for participating and submitting your feedback. Nina, thank you so much for joining us for the session, for sharing your artwork, sharing your story. It's always exciting. We've had several opportunities. We'll remember a couple months ago we had Jesus here, who similarly had just started about a year ago, and that's what's so much fun about the art world and the art business, is that every day is new, and all of us can be kind of bright-eyed and excited about the work that we're doing. Each piece of artwork is a new opportunity. Each client who's walking into a gallery and experiencing the work for the first time, there's that constant sense of renovation. That's what draws, I think, all of us and art lovers to the art world. So, Nina, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to keeping track. I have this idea that as we continue to do the online critique group, hopefully many seasons to come, that we're going to have some opportunities to come back and check in on artists that we've featured. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see how your work progresses and evolves and changes. And we'll definitely look forward to doing that with you and your work. Thank you, Nina.
Thank you very much. And thank you all of you for wonderful comments and for the feedback. It means a lot to me, and also your support. And it was very interesting session, and very interesting to hear the feedback from people in the industry or from other artists. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nina. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We'll be back here next Wednesday, same time, same place.